There was a cultural phenomenon known as Helldivers 2 that just took over the world, really. Took over the world until Sony wanted to make bad decisions and ban it in like half the countries possible. I don't know the exact number, but over like 170 some countries are unable to play it. You had to log in their PSN account. Like it just became a crapshoot. Well, the players backfired on it. They're like, no. And they changed their ways. Sony did. So they don't have to use PSN, but all those 170 some countries, it's still banned in. Like you still can't play it in those countries. So what's happening to Helldivers? What is happening? Let's talk about it, chat.
It's now Escalation of Freedom +1. 1 day since Helldivers 2 released its biggest ever update, and initial player feedback is
ever
that they aren't happy with it.
Oh yeah, of course.
The general thought is that Arrowhead has now made everything in the game harder to deal with, bigger enemies, more armor, and greater numbers, while also nerfing a player's ability to efficiently deal with these new threats.
Obviously, because as a developer, you're never going to please both sides. You're going to have those people who are like me, who complained about the difficulty of the game, got really annoyed with the difficulty of the game, and then you're going to have people like, 11, dyslexic, who are just absolutely sweats at the game and want it harder, right? So you're never going to truly appeal to this game. Crit, do people still care about this game? Apparently not, and it is dying, apparently.
There's also been claims of lying by the studio, dated approaches to game balancing, and inconsistencies.
Dated approaches to game balance. Weird. When you have a game that you're trying to update, every week is it? Every 2 weeks? Of course they're going to run out of content or get behind on things because you've promised so many updates so quickly. So of course, you're not going to be able to sustain that long term.
Messaging. It begs the question, what direction is the studio planning to take with Helldivers and why? Yeah, let's check it all out.
Yeah.
Welcome to the channel. This is Lieutenant Buzz Lightbeer, and since yesterday,
I like his name too, by the way. Lieutenant Buzz Lightbeer.
Love it. Freedom.
Love
the community has become even more heated. The CEO, Shams Georgiani, is now taken to Discord and Twitter, and in general, it could have gone better. In case you haven't done so already, take just a moment to hit subscribe for more Helldivers content.
I'll share the video
It really
later.
helps the channel get noticed in the far corners of YouTube.
Name alone, you should hit the
While
subscribe button.
Ring that
Buzz
notification
Lightbeer.
bell to receive my latest upload alerts.
Got me.
And it's time to check it all out. What the hell happened with Escalation of Freedom? Yeah, let's get stuck into the latest update for Helldivers.
For democracy! No, for deadocracy. I made that word up. You should appreciate it. I like that intro, though. That's kind of a cool intro.
Here's just a few of the headlines popping up after Escalation of Freedom dropped yesterday. PC Gamer went with Helldiver 2's loudest players go nuclear over another unpopular nerf, but Arrowhead CEO keeps calm. Quote, some are going buff everything. Others are saying,
like I just said,
too easy.
You're never gonna please everybody.
Radar led with this title. Helldiver 2's new fire weapon nerfs are down to one shotgun being used in, quote, 30% of all terminated sessions, says Arrowhead CEO. Is that a problem? Yes. Arrowhead is still actively discussing the nerfs. And finally, Games Radar echoed the first two with this one, as Helldivers 2 players grill Arrowhead over more nerfs. Its CEO speaks to the buff everything and its too easy crowds. Quote, we are listening and will tweak.
Here's what I have a question with. Is why does, and if anybody has an answer for this, please let me know. Because I'm still trying to think of how to articulate my own answer to this question. Why does a game continually need to have nerfs? I understand you got to appeal to the sweats that want more of a challenge. That's why you have difficulty scales, right? And doesn't Helldivers have like 8 or 9 or 10 different difficulty levels? Just make another difficulty level, right? So why do you constantly have to nerf things? Oh, that was too good. Let me take that away. now it's no more fun. Now it's no fun to use anymore. To change up the meta, you say. I could see that. I could see that being an issue, or not really an issue, but a focus. But at the same time, to change up the meta, implement something else that's more fun, right? You can change the meta up by giving players a different thing to play with, a different toy to play with. There are 10 difficulties. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, why do you have to nerf things when you have 10 different difficulties? I don't understand that.
Escalation
Imagine,
of Freedom
wait, hey,
strokes familiar.
we're talking about your
anti-nerf
favorite game.
complaints.
Schmitty.
Links to all 3 of these articles can be found in the video description, and I've quoted and tagged in gaming site opinions in the past. Basic themes.
That's going to be in YouTube.
And for many,
you just made
they
YouTube.
also tend to weigh in without the full context or any sort of.
No, people are always
situational
going to play the
awareness.
most
And for
broken
the record,
things.
Escalation of Freedom was not a total failure.
Yeah.
It isn't like that 1 gig of updates brought nothing of value to Helldivers. For instance, in one of those finally it has happened moments 6 months after launch and in a co-op horde
Trying to think of how to
shooter,
respond to you on that
the
one.
damn friends list nightmares seems to have finally been sorted out. One would hope that in an online squad up environment, having a friends list mechanic in good working order would have been launched day 1 with the game's release, but for divers, it hasn't been the case. Speaking as a
So I was trying to think about what you were saying. That no, people are always going to play the most broken things. Absolutely. Instead of maybe nerfing everything a ton, what if on the other side you maybe added a little buff to like the enemies? Say if fire is the main thing, right? Maybe give them a 2-3% fire resistance, right? So that way I guess that would still be the same thing as nerfing, because if you were to take away 2 or 3% from fire damage, then that would be the same thing as adding a resistance, right? So you're kind of having that, that give and take there. But I think, or what I'm confused with this game is, why have 10 different difficulties, right? When then you're going to nerf the things that helped you get through those difficulties. That's what I'm having a hard time understanding with this game.
a player that has nearly hit 400 hours invested into Helldivers, there are some great quality of life improvements here, such as stimming at full health to replenish stamina. Stims no longer break other squad mates' sprints when used, and hell bombs detonating if destroyed after being activated. And I could go on for another few minutes. Add on that aforementioned now functioning social tab, and if Arrowhead had just led with this, all would have been rosy. Some players would naturally want more, but that's human nature. Here's the thing. Arrowhead didn't choose that course. They didn't leave.
I got myself a
well
little ice
enough
cream
alone,
bar
and
while we're watching
that
this.
lands us where we are
Be sure
now.
to grab your Capri Sun and popcorn, chat.
Back on March 25th, and hot on the heels of a massive Nerf Fest patch, Patrick Lasota, head of product testing at Arrowhead, published at that time a pretty controversial explanation attempting to explain weapon balancing nerfs,
Here you go.
buff first
This will help our
mentality,
question.
and more. Quote, many have commented that primary weapons aren't powerful enough and are unable to deal with all the enemies either by the amount of ammo required or their raw DPS. This is very much intentional. You need to rely on your stratagems and the stratagems of your team to deal with all the enemies effectively, either by Eagle airstrikes, orbitals, support weapons, or turrets. Some of your loadout or team should be tailoring their loadouts to killing the weaker stuff more efficiently.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. So, what? Oh, hold on. Let's go back here. What they're saying here. First, we speak the general power of the primary weapons. I agree with that. One thing I never really understood with the primary weapons or weapons in general of Helldivers are, if you don't use an entire clip, you're wasting ammo, right? So like if you were to use, a lot of us, whenever I play shooters, I don't know how you guys play, if I kill one thing, I'll reload immediately, no matter how many bullets are left in my weapon, right? I'll reload immediately. In Helldivers, you actually get penalized for that because you have clips. You don't have total amount of ammo, That in itself just seems weird to me. It seems odd to me. Now, I do understand that the intention is to use your stratagems. That's the whole point of the game. Have a little mini game of calling in the stratagems, throwing them down, because it's a lot of fun to see things go boom with a 500 kg bomb, right? I get that. But you're giving us new weapons. You're giving us skins for those weapons. You're not giving us skins for the stratagems. Why wouldn't you make the focus on, or better focus on, the primary weapons, or secondary weapons, the guns that we're using, seeing, unlocking, make them more efficient than having to rely on the stratagems to get past a horde of enemies, right? So I never understood this excessive nerfing in a PvE game. The game is supposed to be fun, but overly nerfing stuff just gets in the way of that 100%. I agree. I get the nerf every once in a while, but overkill makes me sad. I agree. I hate that. More realism equals less fun, in my opinion. Not even COD does that. Yeah, with the reloading of the clips. I haven't played Helldivers for a minute, but that's the one thing that always irked me, is that you needed to use most of your clip before reloading, or you're just wasting ammo. That doesn't make sense. Now, I understand, like you were saying, the realism part of it. Of course, when we take a clip out, those bullets are gonna be gone. I understand that, but it's a video game. You're fighting monsters and aliens on random planets, and you're dropping from a spaceship. Why do you need to have the realism of you lose the ammo left in your clip? No other game does that. That's just my kind of annoyance.
Tailoring their loadouts to killing the weaker stuff more efficiently. The underlying issue with this statement is the game design itself. Mm-hmm. Now, if primary weapon firepower and that player power fantasy is supposed to be somewhat subdued, and the game is to be played, at least according to this studio statement, in a stratagem-centric manner, then those stratagems have to be available on a moment's notice, and they have to make
more
the
often
players feel overwhelmingly powerful.
Yes.
But they don't.
Uh-huh.
As the game throws more and more
cooldowns are so damn long.
Increasingly stronger armor values, making them tougher and more resilient, players want and need more something. More primary weapon power. More versatility.
I'm going to tell you right now, the chargers in this game can go step on Legos and stub their toe. I absolutely hate the chargers with a passion.
More stratagem to be able to fight back the enemy onslaught. Up until recently, all effects within the game have been a punishment to players, designed to hamper a player's ability to wage war. One less stratagem, greater scatter on directed shots, call in and cooldown negative effects, environmental effects, taking all stratagems offline, and even enemy facilities designed to restrict access to the one thing Lesotho and Arrowhead state they want players to rely on: stratagems. Going back to the game's radar headline, talking about that one shotgun being used 30% of the time versus the Terminids, and Shams Georgiani, the studio's CEO, was quoted on this one from a Discord post. Quote, "The incendiary breaker was like 30% of all Terminid sessions at some point. Very much a meta gun. Is that a problem? Yes. Is it a big one? I don't know. We'll discuss it." File that statement away for just a moment, because it represents how a studio operates based on spreadsheets, based on pick rates and power deltas. And let's now take a look at an opposing viewpoint.
The way that you remove...
Now, I get the 30% issue, the meta gun. If everybody's using the same weapon, why have different weapons? You know? A way around that is, what is so strong about that shotgun that is such a meta weapon, right? Why isn't that effective or as effective in machine guns? Okay, for example, if the shotgun does high damage, high blast damage, because it's a shotgun and it has the fire effect immediately, then why can't the fire damage on machine guns do a little bit more damage to counter it. So toe to toe, the shotgun may deal that initial big blast, but a machine gun can deal sustained blast, right? And it'd be equal. Wouldn't that equal out the meta? Why is that weapon doing so much more progressive damage than any other weapon? Why make any other weapon? That whatever the shotgun does, sniper rifle should do. Machine gun should do. The Magnum handgun should do, right? That would take the meta away because people could use a machine gun and achieve the same success as a shotgun. What do people like to use? You like to use a shotgun, you like to use a machine gun. Pick whatever you want because they're both doing the same thing.
Metas is you take the stuff that's falling behind, that's not in meta, and you buff it.
What I just said.
That are working, you nerf the shit out of them. It doesn't work that way. The moment you do
that's
that,
what I just said.
You've created a worse meta. You've created a toxic meta because people are upset, and now they have to look for something that actually works. It's a bad direction in terms of development.
You've created a toxic meta because people are upset, and now they have to look for something that actually works. And credit to Pirate Software for that profound and quite logical statement. I recently saw a response to Shams Georgiani over on Twitter characterizing Arrowhead's
Perfect, bro.
approach to
Thank you for the follow. I
balancing,
appreciate you.
It went something like this. A car comes into a repair shop and one tire is perfectly inflated, but the other three are nearly flat. Arrowhead's approach, deflate the working tire so it's now just as flat as the others.
I like that. I like that. In case you guys missed it, Arrowhead's approach to what they're doing, right? You're driving a car. 3 of the tires are deflated. One tire is not, right? One tire is the meta tire. Well, what Arrowhead's doing is, okay. Instead of airing up the other 3 tires, let's just deflate this 4th tire so they're all deflated. Exactly what I was saying before. Why not give whatever the shotgun's doing the same treatment to the other guns, seeing as pick and choose whatever weapon you want to use?
Helldivers' chief creative officer and former CEO, just this morning posted a full explanation of the weapon balancing changes. And for now, let's center in on the Breaker Incendiary, which, according to Georgiani's earlier statement, was clearly in the crosshairs for the balancing team. Quote, after multiple changes to the fire damage, the Incendiary Breaker quickly became one of the most powerful weapons in the game, as it absolutely dominated the Terminated frontline and is a bit too reliable when facing the bugs, overshadowing
kind of made like a little firewall
by increasing the recoil and reducing the maximum.
Perfect metaphor for overly nerfing the tire
we
thing.
Intend to make the Incendiary Breaker more demanding for good ammo economy while keeping its immense power intact. There are several key words in that statement that need focusing in on. Too reliable, overshadowing, demanding.
Yep.
And I want to include the community's voice in just a moment because it's important to do so. But here it comes again, full circle. The studio wants a stratagem-centric playstyle. The studio creates multiple negative effects to limit stratagem accessibility and power. Players find X weapon to compensate for studio's negative effects. Studio sees players using X weapon too much, and it has its power reduced. The Incendiary Breaker is the latest casual.
Oh, man. This makes me glad that I haven't played Helldivers in a while. So the way they're describing it is, so we kind of go back to that tire reference, okay, is when the devs created this game, they wanted to have a stratagem focus. I get that. It's cool to call things in to get the big booms and all of that. The stratagems should be a focus. Should it be the main focus? Probably not, but it is a focus. What happens is the player base gets smart and realizes that, wow, this 3-minute cooldown on a stratagem isn't the best when I got hordes of Terminids coming at me, right? So, hello there. What's up, Cheezel? How we doing, man? So instead of saying, hey, maybe we should limit the cooldown, the stratagems, to use them more. No. players found a weapon that could, or a setup of a weapon that could counter the time they need until stratagems can get called down. Now, Arrow's like, oh, you know what? Did you just find a loophole in my system? Yeah, I'm nerfing that. That is taking away the player autonomy and playing the game that they want to play, playing the way that they want to play. Of course, people are going to be uprise about this. They're like, wow, I was smart enough to find a way to maximize, min-max my damage output. Made a video on it, whatever. Now everybody's using it. And now Arrowhead's like, you know what? No, I want you to play the game exactly how I want you to play, not how you want to play. That's not a recipe for a successful game, right? You make the game and you let the players play how they want to play.
On Arrowhead's sacrificial balancing altar, the Railgun 1.0, the Eruptor, the Breaker, now on multiple nerf passes.
I'm using way too big a word. That's fair.
First,
I'll get a dictionary linked in the comments below.
Now, to be fair, the game has also seen a comprehensive list of weapon buffs, by many times outnumbering the nerf counts. But the issue is, and always will be, the nerfs here are heavier and far more directed, while the buffs often yield little to no tangible results. Assault rifles, SMGs, marksman rifles, laser weapons, some sidearms, basically everything outside of a handful of specific weapons could have received a significant push upwards to this now aforementioned Breaker, creating a wide open meta where the crossbow and purifier would be just as lethal and fun to use as every other weapon.
Right.
But Arrowhead again chose a different path, which has torqued some players, asking once again why they're seeing all of these power reductions to their favorite weapons in a non-esports, non-PvP, non-competitive, PvE only
100%
style shooter.
100%.
George Johnson.
What's it matter if they found an overpowered build? You're fighting hordes of bugs. You're fighting waves of automatons. Who cares if you found an overpowered build? That's the point. For you to go in there, feel like you're strong as hell, just mowing through bugs after bugs. It's like they've never seen any sci-fi movie. It's like in any sci-fi movie, a regular machine gun just rips through people. What's wrong with that? You love that. Here in the game, they're trying to make it too complicated.
Johnny took to Twitter with yesterday's update asking for community feedback. And besides the normal fiery insults, there were constructive comments being offered up. You ruined an exciting update with a nerf that now everyone will talk about instead of enjoying the new content. Why not have just waited? Why not buff other weapons instead? You keep scoring so many own goals, and it's
Space forward, how we doing, my friend?
It's such an excellent and amazing game. Helldivers content creator Thick Fillet offered up this one.
Whoa! Thick Fillet.
How does Johan stepping down to a
that's a
CCO
lovely
position
name.
and thinking the time to kill being a main issue being reflected in the balance changes? It feels like more spreadsheet balancing. Like the grenade pistol losing 2 max ammo to gain 2 on resupply. Overall, more grenade pistol shots, but why even remove the 2 max? It's a bad precedent, and the same ideology that got
because they
first go around.
They as the devs want us to play the game how they want to play it, rather than how we want to play it.
Weapons without any compensation will leave a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Most players coming back probably will just enjoy the new content, but it's upsetting to the loyal player base who has stayed this long time.
Right.
And this final one is seen and echoed quite a bit after yesterday's changes. You just couldn't help it, could you? Nerfing again the most popular weapons instead of buffing the bad ones. What's more, with totally undeserved nerfs, especially for the already dead Slugger. Also, all content is exclusively aimed at the high-level players. Such a disappointment.
Right.
Understandably, Twitter is not real life. Reddit is not reality. And players did come back to the game, although I would guess not in as great a numbers as the studio was hoping for. Steam shows a 24-hour peak of just shy of 60,000.
Dang, look at this. almost 500,000 players at its peak. I mean, granted, 32,000 currently is nothing to scoff at. Don't get me wrong. But if you look right here, all of this, okay, this could have been a lot higher had PlayStation not messed with the whole debacle that happened a couple months ago, right? Not messing with the ability to have to log in. And it drove players away and kind of drove away countries to be able to play the game.
Concurrent players, excluding PlayStation. And it being a Tuesday, players have other obligations, family, work, etc.
This is the recent here for the week. For the big update that came out.
First jump. But ideally, the mark Helldivers needs to shoot for is to get back into the 6-figure count. 100,000 players or more concurrent on Steam, which is entirely achievable based on a game that has over 12 million players, and it's only about 6-ish months old. Escalation had the potential to do that day one, minute one, but with the good, there's the bad. And seeing things like the Breaker, and I haven't mentioned it yet, the Flamethrower nerfed, hot on the heels of this week's upcoming fire-centric
those flyers.
Warbound.
The aerial monsters in this is crazy.
Also massive
crazy annoying.
Super Helldive difficulty resulting in players chain crashing, me being one of them, and eventually they just gave up and logged off, hoping to once again return once the game was stable. Underneath the surface of Escalation of Freedom, there's a much bigger and far less discussed issue of inconsistencies within the game branding, inconsistencies within Helldivers itself. On one hand, we get strong outlier weapons that are nerfed, bringing down their power levels, while enemy levels and toughness are simultaneously increased. The studio claims that the game is stratagem-centric, but then pastes players with 3, 4,
definitely
or even more negative modifiers, greatly restricting their stratagem strength. The game itself is clearly not based in reality. I mean, we can continually respawn after dying, but then the Flamethrower is severely...
But yet have a realistic mechanic about the mag where you lose bullets? I don't...
nerfed against heavy enemy armor, all in the name of chasing realism. It's difficult to decide how best to face the game when even the studio doesn't deliver consistent messaging. I think I've made this abundantly clear in my past Helldivers videos, but I enjoy the hell out of playing this game. Squad time with my buds is precious. Squatting up with randoms and barely making it out of a super hot extraction, hearing those screams and excitement on the mics as we make it to space is a dopamine drip on steroids. But there is clearly a disconnect between what Arrowhead says and what Arrowhead does.
Right.
We've seen promises of no more nerfs coming to the game, and then yesterday happens. Here, how about this? If I could just say a few things to the game.
All right, devs, listen up. Here we go.
Stop making changes based on obsolete, old-school metrics. Game balancing is far more than spreadsheets.
Devs can't do that. Devs can't do that because spreadsheets are money. It's equivalent to money. They have a system. They know what works, what doesn't work, what brings them money, what doesn't bring them money, and that's all game developers are worried about. Okay, majority, not all. It's money to them. Why listen to the people that are giving you the money, aka the player base? Why listen to them when I can listen to a online digital sheet of ones and zeros?
It's greater than pick rates. Helldivers is not a game that requires mental gymnastics to understand.
Nope.
You pick some armor, you pick a few weapons, you pick some stratagems, and you do some annihilating. It's both casual and hardcore. It's both silly and serious, and it deserves a different balancing approach. Tear up those old guidebooks on
starting to be too serious, and Starship Troopers is just all fun.
How to be a game developer 101 manuals, and instead focus in on 2 factors only. Will it make players feel powerful, and is it fun?
Yeah.
If whatever you're working on, enemy variants, weapons, stratagems, whatever, if it fails either of those 2 tests, powerful and fun, then it's wrong for the game and it needs more work. Also, stop listening to those outliers
Powerful
screaming about how the game is too
Wouldn't that
easy.
be a good thing?
It's not. And if it's too difficult, there's a way to change that to cater to a player's skill level. But there's only so many times you can pull the rug out from under a player's feet. There's only so many times you can nerf their player power fantasies while buffing everything around them, trying to kill them before they just say, fuck it, I'm out. And on that note, here are your top 3 comments from last video.
All right, so what do you guys think of this is a good video. I'll go ahead and link it in the comments below so you guys can check it out. Be sure to, give him a like and subscribe. I think you did a good job on it. And brought up a lot of good topics, a lot of things that, I agree with, and a lot of things that he was saying more just kind of took me on rants, right? And I appreciate that because I kind of felt the same as he did. Now, I enjoyed Helldivers when I played it. I did. There were some things that just kind of got under my skin that I didn't always, it's like, do I like this? Do I not? Do I need to get over it? But I do think that it had great potential. And it just kind of crapped the bed. What do you guys think of Helldivers? What do you guys think of the current state of Helldivers? Please let me know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.